When COVID hit and the world stopped making sense to a lot of people, there's this one book that experienced a surge in interest, and it was a 70-year-old book, been around forever, and it was from a guy that survived a Nazi concentration camp. And it sold more than 16 million copies, and that book was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Now, I make videos about how to defend and sharpen your mind in the age of AI. And a friend of mine just wrote an article about one of the biggest mind vulnerabilities out there. And I hadn't really covered it before, so I'm going to link it down below. And when I read it, I knew I had to walk you through this. So first I want to talk about what this is and why that hunger runs so deep and how it gets used against you. And then I want to show you two moves that I found can make you steady even when the world doesn't make sense. So let me start off by admitting a mistake that I made. I've been thinking that pain has been the biggest central role in mind vulnerability, but I don't think that the real wound is pain anymore. I think that I'm getting convinced that it's the world not making sense. Now, pain comes from that, but it's not necessarily a hardship that really hurts people. It's disorientation. It's when your effort stops tracking to a reward, when institutions stop being trustable, and the feed that serves the world doesn't really add up. You know, you're watching social media and it seems like everybody's having this perfect life and putting in relatively little effort, and your reality is just not meeting that. So your mind, it needs the world to be legible in order to feel like you have any control. And if you take that away, then you immediately start grasping for anything that's going to make the world make sense. And it's not necessarily something that you're consciously doing. In fact, it's probably not. It's more like a reflex. Sort of like if you get pushed off a cliff, you reach out and you're trying to grab onto anything. So this is the vulnerability that the article named. And right now it's one of the most exploitable things about us. So there's that line that everybody's heard that's strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men. Of course, that pertains to women as well. But I think we're at that point where weak men make hard times. I think we're at the hard times part, and things aren't making sense. And it's extraordinarily difficult when you're disoriented. And if you don't feel like you have control of your life, if you don't feel like you have control of the outcome, like you can't even predict it, what's the point of playing the game? What's the point of putting in any effort at all? And so it makes sense to me why we see this rise in nihilism, and why especially young people are like, why am I even going to try? I don't think it's the healthy thing to do, but I can understand why people would feel that way. So again, when things aren't making sense, we have that reflex of reaching out and trying to grab something, whatever promises to make some sense to us. And the same way that if you fell off a cliff and you reached out and you grabbed something, maybe that something is a thorny, poisonous bush and it's growing on the edge of the cliff, but like you don't care, right? You'll grab that thorny, poisonous bush because your life depends on it. And I think it's the same way with a lot of these ideologies. They can be really damaging and really dangerous, but people will still reach out and hold on to them if they feel like their life is spiraling. And so those things that we reach out and we grab onto could be a guru or a group, an ideology, could be political, could be the manosphere, could be anything, QAnon, could be something that's really bad, it could be something that's decent. But the fact is that we're reaching out and we're trying to grab onto this, and because there's a need for this, for things to make sense, that void is filled by people, whether they have good intentions or not. Now, it's obviously important for society to be structured in a way where things make sense, otherwise it's hell. But when things don't make sense, I think that there are two figures that you can look towards, and they each have great programs for what to run in your mind, how to look at things when your external reality is not making any sense. So the first program is from one of my favorite authors named Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and he lived in the gulags. So he had a very, very difficult life. And one of the things that he recognized was a famous quote or aphorism. It's "live not by lies." And so he believed, having lived through Soviet Russia and some awful, awful institutions, that the greatest antidote for the chaos around you was personal integrity. And refusing to participate in the lies that you see around you was the greatest antidote for that chaos. So an example of this in modern day could be, you go into social media and you're seeing that everybody is putting forward this face, a facade that isn't reality. And so by refusing to participate in that same thing, if you're on social media, fine, but tell the truth, at least more of the truth than what you see. That could be an antidote. And the other program comes from Viktor Frankl, who lived in a Nazi concentration camp. And he said that meaning is the antidote. Meaning for whatever it is that you're going through. If it's pain, then meaning for the pain. But meaning for the chaos. If things aren't making sense in your life, then you can decide, this was one of his biggest breaks, was you can decide that that chaos is not happening to you, but you could look at it as happening for you. And if it's happening for you, then there's something to be gained from that. And that thing that's being gained is the meaning that you ascribe to it. So I think the quote that captures this mind program is, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." So if you have the why, you can bear the how. So I think if we can build this inner stability, then the waves stop capsizing us. Fake news, corruption, your social media feed, the next crisis, whatever it is, you can be steady within that storm. I don't think that this is a figure it out on your own forever. I think it's that if we can achieve this steadiness within ourselves, then we can go back and we can help rebuild the world. I think this is the process of strong men, strong women being created. We don't need the world to make sense before we can choose to be steady. And if we can build that from the inside, then we have a chance at rebuilding it on the outside.